We discovered at the beginning of last episode that it doesn't matter where Bogg and Jeffrey were at the end of the last episode because it won't be mentioned again. We'll start over every time.
What about the Americans? The Spanish will capture them.
Forget the Americans. Worry about your own people.
You didn't talk like that when the Americans first arrived. Then they were your brothers.
Then they weren't defeated. Besides, those two you want to go back for aren't even soldiers. They're newsmen here to report the spilled blood of the Cubans.
The war has turned you cold, Manuel. If you won't go back with me, then I'll go alone.
Rita! Let her go. She's made her choice.
We have the Spanish, we have the Americans, and we have these Cuban people in the middle. I'm going to say Spanish-American War, also known as the Cuban War of Independence, somewhere around 1898.
Where are we, Bogg? Someplace with bombs.
There, too.
Red light?
What else? Cuba, 1898.
Cuban Revolution against the Spanish. Hey, this is where Teddy Roosevelt led his charge of San Juan Hill.
Rita is starting to realize that going back was a bad idea.
Where did you...
Look, I'd like to talk, but I think we better get out of here. Come on.
Jeffrey starts quizzing her. The Spanish are winning, the Americans have retreated, and she's never heard of Teddy Roosevelt or the Rough Riders. The bombs have stopped, and that means the infantry is coming. If she's going to save those two American newsmen, she'd better do it quick. At least she has help now.
Rita! Thank God.
What happened?
A bomb hit, the roof collapsed right on top of him.
All right, come on, everyone. We'll have to look together.
It's no use.
I once knew an old man who said he could move the world if he had a large enough lever.
Archimedes.
That's the guy. Well, find me a fulcrum.
His lever won't move the world, but it's enough to move that beam. Let's get out of here. Rita knows a place to lay low.
Those are pictures of our defeat at San Juan Hill.
Jeffrey says, this is all wrong. What happened to the Rough Riders? What about Teddy Roosevelt? He's their leader.
Yeah, Roosevelt went west in the summer of 1880
After he graduated college?
and got himself shot.
What?
Yeah, he was the 21st or 22nd victim of Billy the Kid.
If you're a Western history buff, brace yourself, because this is not going to be easy. If you are a Western history buff, the first thing you know is that Billy the Kid did not kill 21 men, one for each year of his life. That is a myth.
I did the drawing for the pulps, and that was one of my best sellers. In fact, I think I have a copy of it in here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. An Easterner meets Western justice.
If you looked at that drawing closely, you saw another error. Billy the Kid was not left-handed. That particular myth comes from an old Pharaoh-type image of him in which he has a holstered pistol on his left hip. Somebody forgot that Pharaoh-type images are reversed. I'll talk a little more about that later. Whatever the circumstances, it would appear he killed Teddy, so they have to go back and stop it from happening. While Jeffrey is gathering information, Bogg is being Bogg.
If you're not a soldier, then why are you in Cuba?
Me and the kid are just sort of travelers. We go all over the place.
Is he your son?
I wish he was.
Until you can get him back to 1982, he might as well be, and I think he's starting to feel that way too. If he ever does get back, he's going to have a hard choice to make.
Are you married?
No. I thought about it. A lot.
I'm not sure how much he's thought about the day-to-day marriage part of it. He's definitely thought about the,
But in my line of work, I never stay any place long enough to really get to know anyone.
Sounds lonely.
It is sometimes. But I have the kid, and he's a good friend.
Friendship is nice, but it doesn't compare to the love of a woman.
No kidding.
Maybe a special woman could convince you to settle down.
Maybe eyes like that could talk him into almost anything. I empathize. I'm glad she's not my daughter. I would be so broke. Daddy, I really want a $500,000 Maserati. Duh, okay, princess.
Bogg. Bogg. Bogg, this is real important.
Don't move. I'll be right back.
No, you won't.
At least let me say goodbye to her.
Told you.
Up. Oh, dear. Oh, up, up.
Oh, dear.
That's not Billy the Kid.
You could have at least let me say goodbye.
Are you kidding? I've seen your goodbyes. We didn't have all year.
Valid point, even Bogg can't argue. They spend some time helping Ben Franklin get his kite into the air, and it has nothing to do with the story. It's pure filler. On to Billy the Kid. He's one of Jeffrey's heroes. Jeffrey dressed up as Billy the Kid for Halloween 3 years in a row. He put on some boots and a cowboy hat and stole some cattle.
Jeffrey!
Bogg, help!
Hold on, Jeff, I'm coming.
Bogg, I'm sinking! It's quicksand!
I know. I'm stuck too.
What are you doing down there?
He taunts them a little more, then throws them a rope.
I'm Jeffrey. This is Phineas Bogg.
William Bonney.
It's Billy the Kid.
That wasn't his real name, it was an alias he picked up somewhere along the way. His real name was Henry Antrim. No wonder he went by something else. And he wasn't widely known as Billy the Kid until after Pat Garrett wrote his book. In the regions of New Mexico where he operated, he was mainly known as Kid Antrim. By 1880, he was on the run from the law for his part in the Lincoln County War. Even though there were multiple murders on both sides, he was the only participant who was ever charged with anything. He wrote several letters to Governor Lew Wallace asking for a pardon, but Wallace was too busy writing his novel The Wandering Jew to be bothered with things like serving actual justice. The Kid basically gave up and accepted his fate as an outlaw. By this time, he made his living rustling cattle and horses. Jeffrey is a little starstruck.
Where's your horses?
They ran off.
Must have got wind of some wild Mustang filly. Happens out here all the time.
You must know all about horses and roping and stuff.
Them that don't live long.
I've read about you, Mr. Bonney. You're famous.
Call me Billy. And don't believe everything you read in those magazines. I ain't killed half as many men as they think.
His known body count is around 8. His reported body count could be as high as the national debt by the time the rumor mill gets done.
I'll tell you what. Since you two ain't got horses and I do, you want to ride with me?
All right.
Mount up.
Hey, good job, kid. I didn't know where you were going for at first, but you really conned him into taking us with him.
Who was conning?
Jeffrey watched too many old TV shows that glamorized him.
I mean, you really think this guy's a legend?
Bogg, he's Billy the Kid.
Right, the murderer.
You heard him. He hasn't shot half the people they say he has.
One is too many.
Okay. Or maybe he shot him in self-defense. Maybe they were murderers.
No, they weren't self-defense. The killings he was charged with were a sheriff and his deputy, and the Kid and some of his pals ambushed them with shotguns. He was a cold-blooded murderer. They ride for a while, then stop to wait for the rest of Billy's gang.
Look out!
Wow! That was fast!
No, it wasn't particularly. And they didn't say fast, they said quick. In Western slang, fast described a woman of easy virtue. Quick described a man's draw. If you want to see some well-done quick-draw action, watch Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday in Tombstone. Jeffrey wants Billy to teach him to shoot, but Bogg won't allow it. He doesn't want Jeffrey starting down that road.
Hey, that's okay by me. Except when I was Jeffrey's age, I was on my own. I learned how to shoot. And after that, no one told me what to do.
Except Jeffrey isn't on his own. And neither were you when you were 11. You had a pretty happy family with your mom, your stepdad, and your younger brother around that time. You didn't start getting into trouble until your mother died when you were 14. And for a long time after that, you had your stepdad to fall back on. Don't tell tales, Henry. And stop with the fake Southern accent. You were born in New York and raised in Indiana. In a famous interview in the 1890s, Wyatt Earp said nobody ever did that fanning thing either. He said it was pure fiction. The rest of the gang arrives and Billy announces that Jeffrey and Bogg will be riding with them. It's time to go rob a stagecoach.
Hey, wait a minute. We can't go along a stagecoach robbery.
You want to find Teddy, don't you? We've got to stay with Billy.
All right, but we have to stay out of it. We can't get involved in the holdup.
Will you stop treating me like a kid? I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, stop treating that kid you call kid like a kid. Jeffrey's a little too starstruck. They stop the stage. Guess who's a passenger?
Oh my! First Indians, now outlaws. Oh, this is an awful place.
There, Maggie. Everything's going to be just fine.
Oh, Mr. Roosevelt.
Looks like we got him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Teddy is going to be Teddy.
Who's in charge here? Who's the leader of this gang?
I guess you could say I am.
Billy didn't like that much.
Nobody hits Billy the Kid and lives to brag about it.
So, you're Billy the Kid, are you? You're even less impressive in person. Kind of puny, if you ask me.
You're asking to die. Charlie, give him your gun.
Much to Billy's frustration, Teddy won't take it.
The unwritten code of the West, huh? Okay to shoot a man with a gun in his hand? I have nothing but disgust for you and all outlaws like you.
Put it in his hand, Charlie.
Very kind of you, Charlie. No thanks. Billy wants to shoot me. He'll have to do it in cold blood.
That didn't bother him, and neither did little insults like that. The real Billy probably would have laughed at the slap and called Teddy something in Spanish. Oh yes, he was fluent and spent more time among the Mexican people of the region than he did with the whites. But Teddy's right about this, Billy. He's a punk with a fragile ego.
Let's get out of here, Billy. This guy's not worth it. You're a legend. Legends don't shoot on our men.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, kid. Today I'll be a legend.
Jeffrey reminds me a lot of Will Robinson. He's just so innocent and sincere, even a murderous outlaw can't help but listen to him.
This is your lucky day.
You haven't heard the last from me, William Bonney.
Please, Mr. Roosevelt. You don't want to die. Just get in the stagecoach. Please?
Okay, son. But you should be more careful about the friends you choose.
Even a future president can't help but listen to him. I believe Jeffrey Jones is the true heir to the Will Robinson magic. I hope he uses it wisely.
Now do you think Billy's such a big hero?
I knew he wouldn't shoot him. I told you, he's not as bad as you think he is.
After what you just saw? Oh, look, I don't care now. We saved Roosevelt, now we can get out of here. Still can't be read.
You heard what Roosevelt said. He's not going to let this go until he makes Billy kill him. He's already in town trying to drum up a posse.
Good citizens of this community. Can I have your attention, please?
They seem enthusiastic about the idea.
You have no doubt all heard by now about my confrontation with Billy the Kid. The sheriff has authorized me to organize a posse to go after this cowardly vermin and to put an end to his murderous reign once and for all. I call for volunteers.
That went well. Billy sent one of his men to town to see if the sheriff or anybody else was trying to stir up trouble for them. He reports that not only was Roosevelt trying to raise a posse, he called Billy a coward.
I gotta go into town to get some supplies. You wanna come?
I gotta ask Bogg.
Yeah, if you do, what'll he say?
No. But if I don't, he'll clobber me.
Look, if you have to ask just to go for a little ride, then maybe I should go by myself.
I guess it'll be all right.
I think Jeffrey has a hunch. Plus, Billy really knows how to work him. Being a legend gives you a lot of influence. The rest of the gang has orders to keep Bogg from following.
How long do we have to sit here?
Till Billy gets back.
I mean, I could go a little crazy hanging around like this. Got anything to liven things up a bit?
Like what?
Whiskey?
No, but we have a nice Cabernet.
I bought a new bottle back in town. Wouldn't be a bad time to open it.
I hear it was Warden Crichton with his progressive penal policies at Gotham State Prison who pioneered the idea of getting drunk with the prisoners.
It's in my pack right there.
Great. Ah. Come to think of it, I don't even drink. Well, bon voyage.
Quiet, dirty, get him!
I want to see the backyard scientist test that one. He likes to make things explode.
Slits, like.
Where's Roosevelt?
Everybody in the room is cowed, but nobody's seen Roosevelt today.
You see the way those people acted when I walked in? That's respect. I ain't gonna lose that.
That's not respect. That's fear.
Yeah, well, that's close enough.
Jeffrey says if you kill Roosevelt, it'll be murder.
Yeah, well, I'll give him a fair chance.
Fair? You're 10 times faster than he is, and you know it.
Kid, out here, that's called survival. Survival of the fastest.
You're not a legend. You're just a killer.
You going soft on me, kid?
I guess I am.
And that's not a bad thing. His idol just fell off the pedestal.
Where are you, Bogg? I need you.
Come on.
There's another problem. We have Billy using a cross-draw holster. But the only known picture we have of him, that same ferrotype, shows him with his pistol on his hip like Roosevelt has. We've taken a lot more liberties here. As far as we know, the kid never fought a stand-up gunfight like this with anybody. He was not a quick-draw artist. He liked the odds better when the other guy wasn't looking. But more important, he had a good relationship with every town and pueblo he stayed at. People liked him. He was friendly, outgoing, and a good dancer. He especially enjoyed the dances that the Mexican communities held, and they loved having him. Okay, I think I've given him enough time.
Bogg!
Hold it! Stop!
What do you think you're doing?
Putting a stop to this.
Yep, I stalled just long enough for him to get there. Man, I'm good.
We will draw our guns, and the best man will be left standing.
If that's true, I can tell you right now that Billy's the best man. Because if you draw your gun, he's going to be the one left standing. And the way I see it, he's no man at all.
Bogg, look out!
He tried to shoot Bogg in the back. That was definitely more his style.
I think that was 6. I hope that was 6.
Jeffrey says, he would have killed you. He says, I don't back down. Jeffrey patiently helps him understand the difference between backing down and walking away. He also convinces him to go back east where there aren't so many bullets flying around. His country's going to need him. Bogg takes Billy's gun and throws it away.
Give me your gun! Somebody give me your gun! I'm Billy the Kid!
I've got a whole belt full of bullets and I'm not afraid to throw them at you.
Billy's not much without his gun, is he?
Come back here! I mean it!
Not much with it either.
I'm sorry, Bogg.
Everybody needs heroes. Be careful that you choose the right ones, hold on to them somewhat tenuously and don't idolize them, and make sure you have them for the right reasons. A few of mine are, I could say Jesus, but that's too easy, and I could say my dad, but that's also too easy. The first one that I could really kind of look up to and identify with was Mozart. Not because of his genius, but because of his ADD. It's pretty well established that he had a big dose of it, and I can relate. All he wanted to do was create beautiful things, but the world he found himself in said he couldn't do that unless he squeezed himself into a mold. He couldn't figure out how to do that, gave up, and died at 35. I've never figured out how to fit into the mold this world wants me to look like either. To put it another way, I'm in my 60s, and I've never figured out what I want to be when I grow up. The biggest difference between him and me is I'm just enough of an orsat that I'm determined to live to at least 150 and give that mold the finger the whole way. I live in a world where, with an incredible, awesome wife at my side and the internet, I can do that. Mozart wasn't so fortunate. A couple of others that I'll talk about someday are Desiderius Erasmus and Wyatt Earp. I suppose it would have been more appropriate to talk about Wyatt Earp since we're doing Billy the Kid, but oh well. The upshot is, be careful who your heroes are and why, and be ready to let go if you have to.
All I care about is you're okay. You learned a good lesson. So did I.
What's that?
That even though you act grown up, You're still a kid. A pretty good kid. We're on our way to Cuba.
Where'd they go?
And always make sure you hit the Omni before Billy gets his hands on another gun. I don't think those people are going to be afraid of him anymore, even with a gun. Ironically, he would be shot dead without a gun on his person. Big, brave Sheriff Pat Garrett tracked into a friend's house and set a trap at night. Billy saw some of Garrett's men hiding in the yard and came inside to his friend Pedro's room. In Spanish, he asked who the men outside were. Pedro said, "That's him," and that's when Billy became aware of someone else in the room. In Spanish, he said, "Who's there? Who's there?" Garrett fired twice, but he needn't have fired the second shot. The first one killed Billy instantly. When the lights came on, they discovered that Billy was in fact armed with a kitchen utensil, either a small knife or a spoon. Reports differ. The word went out almost immediately that Garrett had shot Billy in cold blood, and as I said, Billy was popular. Pat Garrett should have been tried for the killing, but instead he wrote a book that made him rich and famous and told a ton of lies about Billy. But you can't ride one moment of fame forever, and for the rest of his life he failed at everything from being a Texas Ranger to selling artesian spring water. I hate to do it, but if you want to know more about the real Billy the Kid, I have to recommend this book. It's called Billy the Kid, A Short and Violent Life by Robert M. Utley. It's available on Amazon for a reasonable price. Why do I hate to do it? Because it is boring! You can tell the guy is an academic because the writing is dry as dust. But it is packed with so much information, so much research, and so much of the cultural background, as well as the backstory about Billy's problems with Lew Wallace. There's just so much there, I have to recommend that you wade through it. You'll come out knowing so much it'll boggle your mind. But I have to admit, Mr. Utley did something that I did not think was possible. He took a life as interesting and captivating as Billy the Kid and made it dull. That is no small accomplishment.
You're captured, yet only this little rebel girl comes to your aid?
This little rebel girl will have your life if she ever gets free.
I hope you exhibit such bravery when you stand in front of the fighting squad.
My men will come soon, you can be sure of that. They'll give you a taste of your own medicine.
Excuse me.
Close enough. With a rescue like that, Bogg should be able to pick up where he left off with Rita. But first, the Omni is still red. Teddy isn't supposed to be here. He was never captured. They have to get him back to the Rough Riders for their charge up the San Juan Hills. There were several hills in a cluster collectively called the San Juan Heights. Several other units were assaulting the one actually called San Juan Hill, while Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders, aided by several other military units, and most importantly, getting cover fire from the newly formed Gatling gun unit, charged up and captured the lower height known as Kettle Hill. But a typo by one reporter led to the whole thing about San Juan Hills singular, and that's why we still have the story today. But before we can have the story at all, we have to get him there. We need a diversion.
What are you gonna do, Bogg?
Stir things up outside. When you hear the first explosion, you and Rita get Roosevelt out of town.
The Spanish have taken the town, so they're pretty relaxed. And now they're not. They can't figure out where the bombing is coming from. As Batman said in the Arkham games, they never look up. That was a good move. Without the bugler to blow orders, the soldiers aren't sure what to do. Each of those little ditties he blows on that thing is an order. The commander gives the order and he relays it with the bugle because that horn is easier to hear over the noise than some guy yelling. And we have to do this joke. It's in the rules. Teddy is off to make his mark on the war, and it's time for Bogg to get back to making out with Rita.
War is a strange thing.
Yeah. tears people apart, brings others closer together.
So true.
Like us.
No. Like my people.
Huh?
This war has united us like never before. With the help of Americans like you and Mr. Roosevelt, we will gain our independence.
Or not. I guess she was a lot easier to seduce when she was in despair. She says thanks for everything, hops on a horse, and rides off just as Jeffrey arrives.
How'd things turn out with Rita?
Oh, fine. But, you know, she has this war and all that, so...
Get dumped, huh?
Yeah.
He didn't so much get dumped as friend zoned, but that wasn't a thing yet. In this reality, she never even developed an attraction for him. Oh well, as he told her before, he doesn't stay in one place long enough to form attachments anyway. And if he ever does get attached, she'd better be a big fan of psychedelic drugs.